for today's session is Business Adaptations to Survive a Pandemic. Before starting, I request all the participants to kindly stay on mute during the session, and if there is any question or a doubt, kindly mention it in the comments only.
The pandemic has been very hard on everyone, including businesses. Businesses from all over the world have suffered from losses, but only those who will risk going too far would possibly find a successful way out. A success is nothing but how high you bounce back after you hit the bottom. In order to breathe life into an idea, one requires a lot of resources. But one thing that is most important for successful business idea is the guiding light of an expert. So without wasting any more time, we should kickstart today's talk by inviting our respected guest, Mr. Anuj Midha. He is a visionary and a pioneer, currently serving as the Chief Executive Officer at Renshare India, which is serving IT, infrastructure, and technological rental needs.
So is an experienced corporate head with a demonstrated history of working in big MNCs as well as startups. He has transformed many ideas to a working business with a perfect and inspiring professional record. So let's get started, and I truly hope that the session will be informative and at the same time full of learning for all of us. So I, on behalf of Team EDC, heartily welcome you to today's session and leave the floor open to you.
Thank you, Muskan and Shaurya, and thank you, Karthik and Animesh for having me here. Uh, it's great to be around. I recollect when I was passing out the college, we didn't have all these video conferences, etc. But technology has evolved since, and it's great that I can share some of my experiences with you. So I'll start with a quick, brief introduction about myself, and then I'll talk about a little bit about my company and what business we are in, and then like the topic of the day, I'll probably shed a little bit light on how we went through this pandemic, and everybody has a different experience. So I'll probably share what we did and how we passed through this wave, and then I think we can have stage open for questions. So just a brief introduction about me. I was also an engineering student. I did mechanical engineering long back, and then like everybody else, I got into IT. Did about 10 years in IT in ERP domain. Then I went to Oxford, did my MBA there. Great experience. The diversity of the class, the wisdom of the teachers, the lectures. It's amazing. It's an amazing experience. If I think you guys are at the right stage. So many of you may be contemplating going for higher education. So please, go for it. The sooner you do, I think I did a little bit late, but I always recommend, either you do, early with 2-3 years experience, maximum, 4-5 years experience. Don't delay beyond that, because that's the right time, when you have some work experience, and then you can, start, going to the next, level of your career. And of course, many of you may be thinking about starting your own venture. So, that also gives you a good opportunity to build your network, which always helps, when you start something, whether it is, the funding or the guidance or the, even the customers, right? So it becomes much easier to, find your way through this, So I also, did my MBA. I, came back. Again, unfortunately, that time was not that great. We were having, financial recession at that time. So I came back, joined IT, HCL Technologies, worked there for 4 years. And then, I decided to get into these startups. Initially, I, dabbled a few ideas myself, but uh, again, the ecosystem was not that evolved, at that time. So I was not sure how to get guidance and how to start, and eventually I ended up working for others, for 3-4 years. Then I joined Rentshare. Last year I joined Rentshare, and uh, within a year I got promoted, and I took over the CEO responsibilities. And since then I've been running Rentshare India. So that's my brief journey till now. I'll just quickly probably show us few slides about Rentshare. So Rentshare, when we talk about Rentshare, it's all about the sharing economy, or the rental economy. Now, again, going back in our time, people had different preferences. We all used to, dream of how soon we can build our own houses and assets, and stuff like that. And there was so much, we were so much possessive about our things. We used to, uh, there was always a thought of having larger houses, bigger cars, and a lot of stuff which we never used to throw also, right? So the toolbox, etc., used to run for generations, right? So that was then. But the way things are happening now, uh, everything is getting into this shared, or the rental economy, right? Whether it is your travel, which is your Ola, Uber, etc., whether it is your work, co-working, which is WeWork, etc., whether it is software, SaaS products. So everything as a service, right? Platform, software, hardware, everything is, going in that direction now. And which is what the mindset of today's, younger generation is. So people like you are more, adapt towards, this using, and, pay as you use, right? So whatever you need, you find it, you pay for it for that duration, and then once you're done with it, you try different things. And that is also going to be the future of work, right? So this gig economy, where somebody takes a project, specializes in one thing, does for a certain period or a project, and then move on. So like what used to happen mostly in European countries, or America, right? You work for a certain period of time, then you break, take a break, spend few months roaming or whatever, right? And then take up another job, right? So that is the direction in which most of the jobs are going now. So most of the things are getting automated. So very specialized skills will be required in the future, uh, and whoever has that will get projects, and then keep doing as per their expertise. So that's where we also fit in. So what we have done is, when we look at rent share, so uh, like I said, uh, the way things are going, people don't want to spend on capex, which is the upfront cost, the flexibility. So when I talk about rent share, today we are only dealing with IT and AV products, which is your laptops, desktops, printers, projectors, uh, speakers, LED screens, LED walls, etc. So all those IT stuff is what we are doing today, and the benefits, like I said, are shown here, where people are moving away from their fixed cost, fixed assets, and moving towards more, use-based costing, right? And of course, the way pandemic has happened, and it has further sort of fast tracked this whole thing, where people can work from anywhere as long as they have the necessary skills and the devices to connect, right? So that's what people are realizing, and that's what we do now. This is something which PwC did an article about the sharing economy. So, in 2013, we were only doing about 5% as shared economy, and so probably when we were young, it number would have been probably much lesser. But as of 2013, only 5% was the sharing economy versus the traditional economy. But the prediction is that by 2025, there will be a 50% shared economy, in the whole world. So, that kind of is obvious the way things are moving, right? Both habits and preferences, and the way work is happening. So, that's the direction in which world is also going. So Rentshare is, we started in 2015. There were different shapes which we took, but finally today we are standing at these numbers. So about, a crore, and a half per month is what we do. And there has been a continuous growth, since last year, or at least, since I joined. Now we have both the models. We had a marketplace model, which you may know as Amazon or Flipkart, right? Where we onboard vendors, but we don't carry any inventory of our own, and we be the sales team or the front end, where we get the customers and we get the orders, and it is executed through these vendors. So that is the marketplace model which we used to do. But now we have also started our own devices since January this year. And we have close to 1500 our own devices, and about 1000 plus devices of our vendors today. The good thing with IT rentals is the renewals are very high. So once we acquire a customer, they typically keep renewing the orders. And we have also turned EBITDA positive, which means we are not burning money. So most of the startups today, which are very large, you would know, all of them. Their revenues are much higher than sorry yeah their revenues are much lower than their costs, so they are all they're all into losses, right? But they have these VC money, so that's how they keep growing. But we have just started, and though we have been there for 5 years now, but we have still not raised a lot of money, and but we have still started turning positive, which is a good sign. So going forward, that is the direction. Now, the current business model is where we are completely focusing on B2B. So earlier, it was a more B2C, B2B mixed model, where about 50% revenue coming from B2C and 50% coming from B2B. Sorry, for those who don't know B2C, B2B, B2C is business to customer, as in direct end customers, so any users, individual customers. And B2B is business to business, right? So we work with other companies, startups, corporate, SMEs, etc., who, again, it's not B2B completely, it is B2B2C, which is the end users are the employees who will use these devices, right? Mostly. Uh, but then there are events. So events is different, but the long-term orders are where this is more B2B2C. So now, like I said, we have a mixed asset model where we have our own assets as well as we have vendor assets. Our share is constantly increasing as we are, acquiring more and more assets, and which is helping us, turn positive. So yeah, and then of course we are a new age tech company, so we focus a lot on customer experience, customer acquisition, the whole customer journey, to make sure once somebody comes on the platform, they are they stick to it. You know, these are some of our customers. So I'm sure you would have heard some of these names, or probably all of these names. So Boat, which many of you may be using the headsets. Ola is a customer. ClassClap, which is into education, books, etc. Chingari, which again is a recent big startup, and so many others. Similarly, on the corporate side, also we are working with many clients today, Concentrix, Gap, SLR, etc., etc. So this is a brief snapshot of our customer base today. This is me and Vaibhav, who sits out of Dubai. He's also, the global MD. So this is, briefly what I wanted to tell you about, renting in general, the way things are moving, and about rent share as a company, right? Now, coming to the topic of this conversation, which is the way the pandemic has affected the businesses, right? Now, I would slightly like to generalize it. Uh, you know, so two things which there are a lot of things which can be spoken about, but I would like to just concentrate on probably two things in this session, rather than giving a lot of gyan in one session. So one is, which you will hear again and again from a lot of people, which is the perseverance, right? So, life is not easy. Very few people get success very easily, in initial stages. You always have to go through these highs and lows, and, eventually, you find your ground, right? So, don't give up. You have to believe in yourself. You have to try different things, and ultimately, you will find success or happiness, right? Which is both, personal as well as professional, right? So, if I have to, give my own example, right? So, 2018, I went to the UK again. So I came back after my MBA. About 10 years later, my wife got an opportunity. I was, doing a good job here, but I left the job, quit my job, and went to the UK. Right, so I was there for about 8, 9 months. Uh, I was like completely desperate for jobs. I was anything which come my, which could have come my way, I would have taken. But after having so much experience, etc., a few offers came, but I could never, you know, had that strength to take something which is not exciting for me, right? So eventually, after about 8, 9 months, I said, I decided that I cannot continue here like this. This is not my cup of tea, and I decided to come back, right? And so the time completely changes, right? If my state of mind at that time was completely different. I would have never imagined that with in next 2 years I would be running a successful company, right? But that's what. So you have to you can never give up. Please, always believe in yourself, keep trying, and you will succeed. The second point, which I would also try to, uh, though it is a different, but I think both of them kind of go together, which is the adaptation, right? So, things are very dynamic, right? Again, like I said, whether it is personal or professional, there are various factors which you can't control. For example, this pandemic, right? Nobody knew in January, that in March, suddenly things will be so different, right? Even again, if I have to give our example, we had completely different plans in January, and we didn't even know, that suddenly there will be so much demand, for devices that, it was such an exciting time during March where, other businesses were sadly suffering. But for us, it was, completely opposite. We had so much demand. We were getting like 100 calls a day, uh, right from, startups to all large corporate, Infosys, Wipro, HCL, everybody was reaching out to us because, you know, they had to send people to work from home, and everybody needed devices at that time, right? So so things change, very dynamically, right? So you can't predict what is going to happen tomorrow, right? But you know you have to constantly adapt to the changing circumstances, right? Now for us, if again, I would always like to give my personal example. When this pandemic started, like everybody, we were also caught unaware, right? So we were also trying to figure out how to, find our way through this, right? Now, uh, till December, we were a complete marketplace. And, January onwards is when we also started putting the structure in place for buying our own assets, right? So, but we were not so much prepared, right? By March, we were just putting things in place. In fact, we were in a co-working space, and March 1st is when we moved to our own office. And I think March 14th or something, we stopped going to office, right? And we had planned everything, big office, where we can keep our assets and but things changed so suddenly that hardly 2 weeks we could all go to the office, and then after that, till now, mostly people are working from home. But what we did is we quickly figured out that when it comes to rentals, right, you have to still give service, delivery, pickups, etc., right? And though there was these zones where all these things were happening, but quickly we took these passes, right, to ensure that the service is not affected. So just to let you know, we never stopped working during pandemic, though very few people were coming, but the operations team were always there, at least one or two people. In fact, one or two people were falling sick also during that time. Fortunately, none of our guys got COVID. They were all very careful while going out, and took all the precautions. So, but there was not a single day where we stopped our operations during this whole. The second challenge which we were facing, like I said, we didn't have our own devices at that time, so we had to quickly. We started buying devices, I think, from February. Very few, I think 50, 100, something like that. But in between also we were trying to figure out through these passes, etc., where we kept on buying whatever number of assets as soon as things were opening, right? So a few factories started working in between. So so we started getting those things from our vendor. uh, we also onboarded a few new vendors at that time. There were a few large orders where we, unfortunately, like I said, we didn't have that kind of vision, so or whatever, third eye, where we could imagine such situation, right? So we were still dependent on a few vendors for some large orders, right? And again, one more example, right? We got a confirmed order of 500 laptops just before the lockdown, right? So 21st the lockdown started, and 20th we got a confirmation from a customer for 500 laptop order. And uh, uh, the worst thing happened, the next day, the lockdown started, right? Though again, that also, uh, you know like, the order was for Bangalore and Kochi, and there was no stock available in these two places, either with us or our vendors. So this lot also, we figured out somebody from Ahmedabad who was ready to send it here. But of course, it takes time to prepare these laptops, send it via trucks, etc. And he could only prepare about 100 200 laptops, and then the lockdown happened, right? So they could not go to the office. We had the order in hand, we had the PO in hand, but we could not execute the order, right? So things like these happen, but so that was a low point. But in I think after a month, we got one of the largest orders in our history, which was about 1,000 laptops in Gurgaon, again done through a new vendor, right? So like I said, you have to keep uh, I don't remember a single day when I was sitting and relaxing and enjoying the lockdown. So we were all trying to figure out ways and means to operate, to uh, you know one more thing which was sort of affecting us was the collections. So pandemic, everybody was affected, even our existing clients, right? So the payments were delayed, right? So that was a big, uh, setback for us, and we had to really spend a lot of time to, get these, till now it's not completely.
Excuse me, sir. So sorry to interrupt you, but you're on mute. Yeah, it's fine now.
Okay. So when did it go on mute? Sorry, I don't
Just
think
a
I
few seconds,
touched.
sir. So in the last 5 seconds.
Okay. Okay. Sorry. So yeah. So different times have different challenges, right? So something which we again adapted is we were earlier doing all these local deliveries, right? So we were, and since it was a marketplace model, so we didn't have any, neither we had a service engineer, nor we had a tie up with any logistics company, right? So all these things we had to do during the pandemic. That hiring happened, that we tied up with a few logistics companies because the orders were coming like, spread across the country, right? So let's say SLR, I showed you that name, right? So it's a eyewear company, right? So they, and most of the orders are coming like that today, right? People are all working from home, so they would order 50 laptops or 100 laptops at 100 different locations, right? So you have to have that tracking, that logistics support, and then the service at those remote locations, right? So a lot of challenges which we had never done, right? Earlier, it used to be like 100 laptops at Ola at one location. You drop, any problem happens, you go there, fix it, come back. Within one city, everything is done, right? Now, the challenges were completely different. So, so that so you have to really keep trying and thinking new ways of doing, and how the situation is happening, right? And according to that, you have to keep changing your plans, or your business model, right? Like Rentshare as a company itself, we had multiple pivots. Now pivots is something, I don't know whether you guys know, but when you change your model from something to something, right? So somebody would have started as let's say selling books, and then they started doing 10 other things, right? So we also, when Rentshare initially started, it was a complete P2P model where, as I as a consumer can give my laptop to somebody else. That's how it started. Then it moved to marketplace model, to our own asset model, right? So we have sort of three different versions of Rentshare which has happened during these last 5 years, right? And again, tomorrow things may be completely different or slightly different. You never know, depending on how the business is shaping up. We may again try to do something different or add something new or something. So so that is how things happen, and you have to constantly adapt yourself to the changing environment. uh, One more thing, as a startup head or a CEO, right? So you have to always think from two different perspectives, right? One is when you think about the company as a whole, which direction it is going, like strategy, what is going to happen in next 6 months, 12 months, 36 months, right? So you have to always keep that in mind, where as a company you are going, right? But at the same time, the team is so small that you have to also look at the minutest things, right? So at one time you are like on the top, just talking numbers and stuff like that, and the next moment you may be just looking at a very very small topic, maybe a customer feedback. Again, to give you my personal example, uh, I would generally talk to large customers, right, for let's say 100 500 kind of orders, right, or more. But uh, there have been instances where an individual customer would have escalated something, and I remember one customer, right? So he would only talk to me, he won't talk to anybody else. So and of course, it's not that I was I was talking to him. I was trying to calm him down. He had certain issue or something, right? And he would not talk to anybody else, which I did, right? So, and there are other examples, right? So, on technology side, you have to constantly keep thinking, okay, something is not working here. How can I add this to make user experience better, right? So we don't have a large design team or UX team, etc., etc., right? So things are still happening at this stage also, where I constantly get involved in some of these small things. Usually, there are people assigned for different tasks, but you have to when you get involved, you also think from your perspective, or a new perspective, right? So uh, so that is something which is very exciting. So you know the entire organization, each step, what is happening, right? Who's doing what is happening, how many numbers, which gives you a lot of control, so that you can steer it in the right direction, right? So yeah, so I think I can go on and on, but I would like to stop now, and probably happy to take any questions, anything which you guys want to ask, or any comment.
Thank you so much, sir. It was quite an inspiring and a remarkable journey you've had, sir. Thank you so much for sharing it with us. So now we would like to begin with the question.
Thank you. Sure.
So you became the CEO of Rensure just before the pandemic started. So how has the journey been since then, and what challenges have you faced with the onset of this pandemic?
More and more cities, more and more categories, and large number of orders, right? So if I talk about numbers, I think till last year, we had already crossed 100,000 orders, in terms of the number of orders, right? But after I joined, we had a complete different strategy, or model, right? So we started focusing on our own assets, right? So it was a completely different ball game, right? Second was the complete B2B focus, right? See, one thing I would, again, as an experience, like to tell you that though you talk about these changes, right, but these changes are not easy, you know so these pivots, when it happens, it's not just an org change, right? It's also a mentality change. The people who are used to certain status quo, it's very difficult to change that habits, those mindset, right? So B2C versus B2B is a completely different ball game, right? And like I said, one is the org structure, or the processes, etc., which have to be changed. The mindset of the people itself is a big challenge, right? So you have to constantly keep reinforcing that this is where we are going, this is our new direction. And you have to adapt. I can give that direction, right? But I cannot force everybody, right? So you have to keep changing those chatting, keep telling that this is the right way to do, this is where we are going. And of course, slowly, that change happens, right? But that the mentality change is one of the hardest things, right? Other things you can still decide, get new systems, get new people, take offices, etc., etc. But changing people is the hardest thing, I would say, right? So yeah, so the B2B focus was the second thing which we did. uh, then so our assets, B2B focus. Yeah, one more thing. So we till last year, we were doing a lot of categories. If anybody has seen Rentier earlier, so we were doing IT, we were also doing events, we were doing hobby equipments, music equipments, anything which was there to rent, like a platform, we were willing to do it, right? So we had partners across all these categories, all these cities, and wherever we could start, we just onboard the vendor and start promoting that particular category in that city, right? So that is how the digital, that the whole Amazon thing works, right? But again, now we in the new focus, we completely killed all the other categories other than IT and AV. So we had a sort of a clear focus that we want to go vertical, which is deep into one particular thing, which is IT and AV. So we were already strong in that, so it's not that we took something just randomly, right? So we were already doing well in that segment. But again, we took a hard decision that one fine day we will close all other categories, right? So I think December 20th or something, we again again that mindset, right? So uh, you know uh, people were skeptical, right? We are still getting some revenues, why to close it, right? But it was like, it has to be closed, so why to delay it, right? So let us just close, so whatever orders are running, let it run, but any new orders we will not take, right? So the next day, on the website everything was removed, right? So we decided, okay, only these two categories, everything else is gone. We still kept getting inquiries, because people were used to it. So a lot of people were still sending those inquiries, but we took a hard stance. We said, in fact, we said, okay, these are the vendors, go take from them. We don't, like, there is nothing to hide, right? So we said, okay, go ahead and take directly from them. But from our side, we completely stopped one fine day, right? So yeah, so these were the changes, Sharia, which we did this year. So so as a CEO, my responsibility was to ensure that these changes are happening, right? So like I said, it's not just there are a lot of tech side changes which started happening when it is more B2B focused, right? So earlier you could go just order one laptop, one desktop, do payment, and it will be delivered to you, right? Now when it comes to B2B, there are many processes. You have to talk to the procurement guys, or the CEOs of these startups, and try to build that rapport. And so again, I come from a BD, not completely, but since I jumped into startups, I was doing BD, right? So I always had that focus of talking to these people outside my organization. Again, I throughout my career, I have interacted with so many people, so I would always use those connections, right? So networking is again a very, very key aspect, right? So you have to always be visible, right? So people should know you across the industry, across so you have to keep talking about yourself, especially when it comes to let's say renting, right? So people, I know people today also are very skeptical when I talk to them, right? How will be the devices, how will be the service, so uh, if we spend a lot of money on digital marketing, right? So we are always on top of SEO, right? But so that just gives one kind of vision to people, right? That these guys are there. But unless you know uh, uh, the easiest way is if somebody refers you, right? So if somebody has used your services, or somebody knows you personally, right? So it becomes a lot more easier to do those things, right? And so those are the kind of changes which I am trying to bring in the organization, to become more B2B focused, more opening new doors. So people, like I said, it's not easy. If people are not used to it, it's not easy. When I go and meet somebody, uh, there is always this thought that, can I get business from this guy or in his company, right? But as a B2C company, if I talk about Rentshare 1 year earlier, right, everything was like incoming, right? So all we had an IVR system, etc., etc., right? So everything used to be incoming, right? So in fact, again, I hired a BD guy in March. So he joined again same time. So he joined us on March 15th, right? And and we had stopped going to office, right? So March 15th, this new guy was hired, especially for B2B sales, right? So that he can go out, meet more and more people, represent Trendshare at different forums, etc. But unfortunately, everything stopped at that time, right? So so a lot of like I said, lot of changes since I joined. It's a completely new version of Rentshare which I am leading now. And again, fortunately, it has been going well in that direction. we are showing good growth signs, and there is tremendous opportunity where we can still grow. So that is where I'm standing today, where taking it to the next level now, right?
That was really motivating as well as interesting. My next question will be, can you throw some light on the importance of a business continuity plan, especially in the times of current pandemic?
See, again, it depends on the kind of business, right? So see, certain things I'm sure you would have read, known knowns, known unknowns, unknown unknowns, right? So so this pandemic was something like, you cannot plan for it, right? Certain things which you uh, again, as a business grows, you know certain risks which are inherent to the business which you can plan, right? For example, in our business, there are damages, there are a few customers who abscond, right? So we know there is a certain inherent risk in this business, right? Since we don't take, let's say, bank guarantee, or don't look at their financial records, etc., right? So there is always that risk, and delayed payments. If the company shuts down, then probably we'll lose the whole revenue, right? Like, again, during pandemic, some of our customers have completely closed down, right? Now we may or we may not get that rent, right? So those things you can plan, right? So you can keep some contingency fund or whatever, right? So this much will be used for that, right? But things like this, nobody can plan, right? So you have to uh, as it progresses, you also have to learn, right? What is there, what is not there, right? Again, if you look at pandemic example, right now, I think in June, when things started opening up, uh, there were still challenges, right? Because some pockets were still closed, right? So let's say automobiles, right? In Chennai, they have these auxiliary parts companies, right? They were closed. Now, if the supplier is there, what will you do if everything is there and let's say Excel is not there? What will you do with that whole thing? It won't work, right? So you need the complete, all the parts. Then only you can assemble it, right? So these things you can never plan. Of course, if somebody had known this kind of thing would be coming, then like now China, people are moving away from China, right? But let's say 1 year back, nobody would have ever imagined that the way China is manufacturing hub of the world. Why would and the cost advantage and everything, right? So no, no, but now, because of this pandemic, people have started now looking at other options, right? People are coming to India and other countries, right? So some things you can plan, some things you cannot plan, right? So what you can plan is you will always plan, but what you don't know is then how can you plan, right?
That was very well put, sir. Thank you so much. So my next question is, the pandemic has inspired creative uses of technology. Can you share any such experience in your company or otherwise you may have come across?
See, again, we were a tech company always, right? So for us, of course, we have been improving on the customer experience, and we have changed now, adapted to more B2B scenarios, which were not there earlier, right? So that that is a very kind of natural progression which has happened for us. So we have not drastically changed, some technology or some the website is still there. We are still taking orders online. We are still taking requests, and things are happening, right? So but minute as in a few changes have happened because of the B2B focus, right? So we have started the like the purchase order, right? Which earlier there was no provision to add or accept it, right? So those kind of changes have started happening, but I won't call it like completely different thing, which or a model or something, right? But the best example today which I can see is the edtech, right? I think uh, the way people have started using technology for education, right? whether it is Byju's or White Hat Junior or all these tech companies, right? They are the perfect example of completely using the opportunity to the tech to get something which is required, right? So if you ask me today, tech is the best example. A lot of people are trying different things there, right? So and which is required, right? I don't next at least till June, I don't think things are going to change, and people will still. But one thing, what happens, Shaurya and Muskan, during we think once people start getting used to certain way of doing things, right? Then it is very difficult to come back to the original state. So there will be always, like, people have already started talking about a hybrid model, right? Where you will have few classes maybe in the school or college, and a few maybe online. Even for work, people are talking about the same, right? So many organizations have started saying that they will never go back to office, right? A few are saying we'll have only a few seats. Monday, one day some people will come, the next day a few more people will come, so they'll divide that thing, right? So yeah, so that is uh, way things have happened. And uh, even, let's say, software as a service, right? I think about 10 years back, people were very hesitant, right? Whether it will work, not work, if it breaks, everything used to be on premises, right? So you have all these large servers, and everything used to run on premises. But once that SAS, SaaS started, what, software as a service. Now, everything is moving there, right? Small, large organizations. There are organizations which only like Salesforce, right? It started as a complete SaaS company, and of course, it is the largest in its domain, right? So that is what these changes bring. Like I said, these ed tech or health tech, whatever these changes they are bringing, I'm sure they, it will continue for long. Even health tech, for example, right? So was these people are used to these tele medicine, right? People would still, like, now we are used to online grocery, right? We are without thinking twice, we order everything, right? Whether it is vegetables, fruits, whatever, right? Same way, ed tech, health tech, I think these will become part of our lives. We will be more comfortable with using these technologies for our comfort, right?
So that was really great. So, sir, while we discuss the effects of the pandemic, what will be your take on maintaining the client relationship during such pandemic times?
Again, Muskan, what uh, change has happened is, since it is not a localized sort of change, right? So so everybody is used to it, right? See, if it was, let's say, an earthquake or something in one part of the world, right? Then uh, it would be a different question, right? Now today the scenario is everybody is affected, right? Everybody is under the same uh, situation, right? So people are very comfortable with these changes. Like I said, it's a change which has happened, and probably it will continue for long. Like earlier, everybody used to come meet me, then only we'll talk, right? But now everybody is comfortable. Let's fix up a time, and let's go it on a video call or a phone call, right? And same with customers, right? Now, again, but as a technology company, I would say that uh, we would still try to use a lot of digital means to keep the customer engaged, or so keep sending them updates, flyers, so all those things will still happen. But yeah, that human touch, though it makes a difference, but like I said, now people are themselves used to instead of we trying to change something, now they are themselves changed, right? So I think they'll be much more comfortable, at least for next 1 year, I would assume. After that, we don't know, maybe things will completely come back to pre-pandemic, or a mix, I don't know. But today I think everybody is very comfortable using these mediums.
That was very well put, sir. So my last question for the day is, so what is your take on the way the Indian companies have handled and adapted to the change scenario due to the pandemic? Does the pandemic have any silver lining which you think we should adopt even after the pandemic has ended?
Yeah, I think I covered some of these things earlier, Shaurya. The whole culture, the startup culture has already started. I think whatever 5, 6, 10 years back, right? Since probably Flipkart started, right? That was one of the biggest successes in this domain, right? And you know, and that has kind of begun that revolution or whatever, right? That dominoes effect. Now everybody is very comfortable, right? Now if you say you work for Flipkart, people won't blink eyes, right? uh, Earlier, people would always think about Infosys and Wipro and HCL, right? Outside that, any company you say, they will say, why can't you get into these companies, right? But now the culture has completely changed. People are more risk taking, and they either they start or they join these startups, and they are excited about these newer things, right? That's how these Byju's, etc., they have all within a few years they have like grown tremendously, right? And that's what has brought VCs also, right? When the whole ecosystem has started evolving, obviously the whole whether it is incubators, whether it is mentors, whether it is angel funding, whether it is VC funding, everything has started flowing in, right? So it is going to it can only go up from here, right? It cannot go down. And again, like I said, which is what we are seeing with these unicorns which are coming up today, right? Now Fresh to Home, which is a food delivery, or this Licious, right? Again, they have tremendously benefited from pandemic. Big Basket, right? All these companies have really taken advantage of, they were in the right place at the right time, right? Like the demonetization which happened, Paytm suddenly got so much benefit, right? So a few companies, of course, they go with the tide, and they take advantage of it or get advantage from the circumstances. And few mushroom up, or they develop during this time, like uh, again, for example, some of these uh, uh, like telemedicine, etc., right? They probably started just because of the pandemic, right? So again, like I said, this trend is only going to go further, and which is, I think all that's why I'm talking to all you guys, because I'm sure you will be also excited to do something not very traditional, right?
So, sir, coming to the conclusion of today's session, I would like to thank our worthy guest for taking out time from his busy schedule and enlightening us with his words of wisdom and knowledge. I am sure that we'll all take something back from today's session, which will help us get through up and downs in our professional life ahead. Once again, thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time. Really, if it was of any help, I'll be really glad. I'll probably drop my email address in the chat box, and phone number also. So if anybody has anything which they want to discuss, please feel free. Uh, I'll be more than happy to guide you.
So before parting, so if you could give one life advice to youngsters of our age, which we should know right now.
I think I that's what I told during the last few points, right? I think enjoy life, don't give up, right? So there will be ups and downs. You know, uh, don't give up, right? Don't be a Sushant, right? So uh, you know, everybody, I don't believe anybody has not passed through these phases, right? So everybody has passed through these phases, tried different things, and finally succeeded somewhere, right? So keep trying, don't give up hope, and I think, I'm sure you'll all do well in your lives. And again, the measurement of success is not money, right? So you know whatever you are doing, you should be uh, doing from your which you are liking, right? Which excites you, whether it is playing music or playing or whatever, right? But don't money is not a criteria for success. That's a very wrong. Of course, everybody or almost everybody, takes that as a measure of success, but frankly, it is not, which many people don't realize, right? So, but of course, it is easier said than done. Uh, but yeah, that is something which I have realized during all these years, right? People take so much tension and all that to succeed, and then they get into so many health problems, right? So there is there is no end, right? Today you may have uh, you know uh, Mercedes, tomorrow you'll want BMW, and there is no end to it, right? You can build a two, right? But there is no end, right? It's there. Be content, be happy with what you are doing. Don't run after money, or don't look at others, what others are doing in their lives, right? You have your own, you should have your own uh, you know uh, measurement of success, right? What you think is good for you.
All right, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you for giving this opportunity. Thanks. I'll just share my details if anybody wants to reach out to me for anything.
Yes, sir.
Okay, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, participants, for joining.